They're not gonna rook us. Explain it to me. I'm not a numbers guy, but that doesn't seem to add up. It's a very poorly officiated basketball game. Take that for data.
Hello world, welcome back to another episode of the Up and Under. Oh, it's been a fair amount of time since we've been here, and boy has the NBA world been shaken upside down and a half. So, myself and the boys, we are going to kind of take on what has happened in these crazy couple weeks of the NBA. I'm Zach Henderson, greeted with Sancho Perez.
How's it going? What's good? What's good? Excited to talk ball again. Still got a couple of months till training camp starts, but I mean, NBA never stops. A lot of topics to talk about. We had some early season predictions coming out today, so we'll look at some teams. We'll talk about certain events the past few weeks, and as always with us, Sebastian, what's going on, brother?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. I'm glad we could do this all together again. I think we got a great episode also planned out for you guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to jump right into it. The biggest move of the summer. Obviously, the first things that come to the forefront, LeBron James to the LA Lakers, and the Kawhi Leonard trade to the Toronto Raptors. So, obviously, those are the top two in the league. But from an organizational standpoint, who is the bigger winner here? Is it the Lakers? Are they in a position? Is Ken the King? Is this a ticket to the conference finals for the Lakers, or is it this year right off?
Oh, when you look at the two different moves and what they do to affect the franchises, like there's no bigger shift to a franchise than adding LeBron James, I would have to say, but it's the other pieces around LeBron James that I feel are not going to be as good for the team. As the other side, you see the Raptors, and you add Kawhi Leonard as more of a upgrade from DeMar DeRozan. As sad as that is for hardcore Raptor fans to admit, it is an obvious upside on the defensive end and offensive end. So I believe that if we're running back with the Raptors are destined to do better than last year with Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, but bigger for the franchise. LeBron obviously will shift any sort of team you put him on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I completely agree with you, Zach, about it almost looks like, they made the chess move. They got the best player in the world in LeBron James. But then the other moves that they made, the signings, seem to give an impression that I don't think they're willing to just give this year away. But I think it's a long-term perspective. It's more of a long-term plan. They did not want to commit to anybody for multiple years. They were looking at one-year deals. That's what they're offering. And on the Raptors, on the other hand, it's the flip side of it. This is an all-in move, almost pretty much. If of course, Kawhi decides to leave as a free agent at the end of the year. And they're looking at this year as their chance to finally get to the finals.
Absolutely a chance for the Raptors to make it all the way. The biggest move in the game, for sure. I agree, Zach. Bringing LeBron James to any team, that's the highlight. I have another organization that I think has had a great offseason. Obviously, the biggest news before the LeBron decision was the Paul George re-signing. Don't sleep on them. And recently, the addition of Nerlens Noel kind of rounds their team out and puts them in a good financial perspective after they got rid of Carmelo. So where do you guys see OKC fitting into this year's move situation?
Ooh, definitely OKC is up there in the conversation. They're definitely, in my opinion, going to be at least top four in the West, which is already a very stacked team. When you look back last year to when Paul George was traded to the OKC Thunder, you could arguably have said that team was the team to beat in the West. Maybe not so the Rockets, but the Thunder before they added Carmelo. And then they added Carmelo, and boy, did that change things for them. So now that they've gotten rid of Carmelo, I believe that they're able to run it the way that they wanted to initially, have Paul George and Russ run the plays most of the time. And they even got Dennis Schroeder now, too. So they have a lot of options with ball handlers. And maybe Westbrook's going to play a little bit more off the ball, too. So it'll be a lot it'll be very exciting to see what's going to happen with that team. But one of the biggest things is that they still have a huge, huge financial hole. Maybe not a hole, but they are very, very pricey this year. And some of these guys may have gotten overpaid through trades, through whatever circumstances that they're in. But man, the owner is all in on this paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, if you would tell me that my three best players are Westbrook, George, and Adams, I mean, I'll take it. And they got those guys locked in for the next few years. And I think in the situation that they were in, as Zach mentioned, with the luxury tax issues, the move to get Schroeder, to get a player who, has had his issues off the court as well as in the locker room, with teammates in Atlanta, is a productive player if in the right role. So we'll see if coming off the bench, being less of a focus on offense may help his game.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, and Andre Roberson will help out their defensive end as well, and they won't need to rely on him for offense with the star-studded cast they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of Roberson, it's kind of it's an interesting thing to look at too, because obviously on the offensive end he wasn't really too much of a threat, but he was heavily favored on the defensive end, where when he went down, their defense definitely did start to struggle. Before he got injured, they were a top 5 defense in the league. So more or less looking back with this injury to really close to his ass, like this is going to affect him. Well, seeing how it affects him in this upcoming season will be something to watch. If he's still laterally as quick as he was before, if he's able to close out on those perimeter offensive players as well, that's definitely something that we have to look out for, because how prototypically one-dimensional as a 3-and-D kind of person he is, with the
what
three not
three?
necessarily
What
falling.
three? No, he's
exactly.
just D. He's all D. He can't even
He's
make
all
a free
D.
throw.
So with that, his defense is really what's going to keep him on the floor.
Absolutely, and he has to be there for that. You guys might have seen recently, Enes Kanter was doing his big New York media tour and talking up his ex-teammates, Russell Westbrook. Big vote of confidence there. So to any misreports out there, reports that he's not a good teammate, selfish, all the connotations that have come with the summer in the NBA and the storylines that the media needs, kind of squashed by Enes Kanter. And I think whether it be Dennis Schroeder, Nerlens Noel, the recruitment of Nerlens Noel was noted. I think this is going to be a team that's all committed to winning, and they're going to show up this year. Definitely top 4, top 3 team in the West, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think defensively they have the potential to be really, really good. That lineup with, as we mentioned, the big three, so to speak, Roberson, and you put a guy like Grant in there, can really defend. And, they're taking some flyers on TLC, Luau Cabarro, and they got Terrence Ferguson, the second-year shooting guard, and, can Patrick Patterson provide anything? I think that he was the guy who suffered the most with Melo. Coming in last season, because he was projected to be the starting 4. He was supposed to be the guy who can shoot the 3, do the things that he did with the Raptors, move the ball. And when Melo came in, he was benched, and then at times he wasn't even getting any minutes. So I'll be interested to see what he can do in the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the East here, with the Kawhi move to Toronto, obviously the East, to a lot of people, is wide open. You have the Sixers, the Celtics, as the upcoming teams. The Raptors, a lot of people, I think they're number 1 right now in the East in the position, but they're not getting necessarily that respect. You have Indiana, who doesn't get the same respect, but is a young team that puts the grind in, as well as the Heat, that are always a tough team, always assembled tough, and are not going to back down to anyone. So I don't think it's as open as possible, but who is the new king of the East to say? We have Kawhi, who we've seen just show out in finals performances and be a true superstar. You have a guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then kind of like a 3-headed monster in Boston, when you have Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, and a lot of great buy-in role players there, and a team culture. For me, the Sixers are a little young to still be at the top, and they've got a little more experience to grow, but Joel Embiid's a great player, and I think Ben Simmons is just going to continue to grow as a playmaker. But what do you think? Is there a definitive ticket to the finals this year? Any player that has an opportunity to bring it all the way?
Well, now that LeBron's out of the East, I would say that it's pretty wide open. Right now at the top, there's a pretty big cluster of really good talent, like you said, with the Raptors, the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. They're all very much prepared to go all in. They're all prepared to really push for that finals because now that LeBron's not there, there's no one really in their way, and they're going to make a way for themselves, right? The only proven superstar right now in the East that I find is Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's proven it game in and game out. He's showed everybody what he's there for. Last year, making it the hardest challenge for the Celtics, besides the Cavs, obviously. But uh, the Bucks are going to be a very interesting team under Budenholzer, especially with the emphasis on ball passing and just sharing the ball and getting the ball moving. There's going to be a lot of options on that team, and having Giannis that much of a pull on the defensive end, it's going to be scary to see. But King of the East, I would say Giannis, but team in the East, I still got to go with the Raptors.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm intrigued too by Coach Butt with the Bucks. As both of you know, I was not a fan of Jason Kidd at all. As a head coach, loved him as a player. And Joe Punchy took over last year, but I think he was a bit, not underqualified, but I think he was a bit overwhelmed. He didn't have head coaching experience before. I think in the playoffs it showed a little bit. And I'm just a bit, I would say, disappointed by the moves they made or the lack of moves. I like the Brook Lopez signing a lot, but I don't know why they threw Ilyasova $21 million the first day of free agency. Coach Bud, Ilyasova was one of his guys. He played in the Hawks, so there's a connection there. I think it's good for them to move on from Jabari just because he didn't seem to be happy there. He was drafted as a franchise player, quote unquote, and of course Giannis turned out to be what he is now, and that all kind of went down the road. With what makes me hesitate about the East yet is the Celtics because we just haven't seen Hayward and Kyrie in so long. And I don't think there's going to be any chemistry issues, but I think there may be just a little bit of rust at the start of the year. They got to figure it out. They're all playing together now, and I think that will maybe hurt them standing-wise, where they're going to finish in the regular season eventually. But in playoffs, right now I would love to see a Celtics Raptors, and try not to be biased, but I would probably pick the Raptors right now, just especially because of their defensive versatility. Because when we speak about Tatum, Brown, and Hayward, right, that lineup, those wings that can defend multiple positions, you throw in Smart as well. I think the Raptors now with Kawhi, OG, Danny Green, they have Pascal.
Keep it going.
Absolutely. And offense, hard to picture right now because, obviously Debo carried such a heavy load for the Raptors. But defensively, you got to be excited if you're a Raptors fan.
No doubt. Interesting perspective, guys. Going back to the Kawhi trade, the other side of it, the side that's really not being talked about too much, but for me, very, very interesting, is DeMar and his fit with the Spurs. Obviously, the big stat that's being floated around is Debo and LaMarcus Aldridge have more combined mid-range shots last year than 7 teams. 7 different teams, not combined, guys. But still, a lot. And the way that people think is successful in this NBA and the way the NBA is shifting currently doesn't mean it's always going to be linear like that. But, with more three-point shooting, can it work? And I think it's a really unique opportunity if this team's healthy. I think they have the role players to be able to shoot the three and play off of them because these guys are going to attract a lot of attention. Spacing might be an issue, but I think DeMar DeRozan in Greg's Popovich's system, the Spurs system, is going to thrive. I think it's going to be able to open up so much. It's going to be that extra pass, and they're going to have wide open looks. But what do you guys think about the fit there?
Oh, the Spurs. As much as I want to say that, with the West being so stacked and whatnot, that it's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs. time and time again, you always get shown that you never bet against the Spurs. Like they've been the definition of consistency. They've made it to the playoffs like 20 plus years in a row, right? So it's hard to really go against it with the fit with LaMarcus and DeMar. As you see that the game is going space and pace, it's going to be interesting to see how much space they can really get in the mid-range zone because both of them are almost parked in there. Like LaMarcus Aldridge just pull up straight away mid-range jumper, like that's iconic. Debo's back to the basket, 3 dribble pull up jumper, that's iconic. And most of these teams are already going to be scouting for that. Having 2 to 3 defenders playing a zone in the mid range is going to be very hard to break sometimes. So they're going to need to surround themselves with other shooters. If DeJounte Murray has a breakout season this year, maybe that's the real X factor that we're all not really paying all too much attention about. So who knows?
I like it. DeJounte Murray, all second defensive team last season. Lonnie Walker, they drafted him. We'll see what he can provide, because I just feel like it looks thin. You know, when you go through the roster, when you erase the starting five, it looks a bit thin. You know, they put a lot of weight on Bertans, who's a good shooter. Then of course they re-signed Bellinelli. I think also, Seb, you mentioned Debo will be a good fit. I think Jakob will be a great fit because, Pop still likes to go old school, so to speak. He likes to go with classic big men. And I think, Powell's getting old, obviously 38 years old now. I think Jakob could also be an X factor for the Spurs next year.
Speak about all defensive team with DeJounte Murray. The Spurs actually finished last regular season with the fewest points scored against them per game. They had the best defensive rating in that category. And that was mainly without Kawhi and without a lot of Danny Green at some points as well, who's another huge defender for them. So they're in a position to still be a very good defensive team with their system, and they've obviously added some offensive firepower. I think last year was a huge year for DeMar DeRozan. I felt at the beginning of the year he was kind of let free, and as the Raptors system came in and it was more equal opportunity, we didn't necessarily run everything through Debo. And that's what the Raptors had to do, and that's what was called upon Dwayne Casey to do as a coach. But I think when the ball is run through DeMar DeRozan, I think we're going to see that a lot this year with the San Antonio Spurs. He is now evolved to a player that can create and make everyone around him better, and he's very intelligent with the basketball. It doesn't matter if there's a 3-person zone in the paint. He's going to shoot that shot and hit it. It doesn't matter if there's 3 hands in his face at this point in his career. I think DeMar DeRozan is up for an MVP caliber season this year. And it's a huge move for the Spurs. I think they're finishing fourth in the West.
Ooh. That's a hot take.
Quick shots, but yeah. I think it's a really good move. I think you look at the history of the Spurs, they've had Twin Towers. They've made it work with 2 big presences in the paint, in the restricted area. DeMar DeRozan's they're gonna be able to switch that around with positions, and I think they're gonna make a really good team and a good run this year. Talking about other good teams in the West, I hand it over to Zach, and he's just gonna give us a little rundown on Houston.
Oh man, okay, so Houston, where do we start? We got basically their version of running it back minus the presence of Trevor Ariza, which I feel is going to be very, very missed, especially as a very prototypical 3-and-D guy who was hitting the 3 at the very solid clip of around like 34%. It's going to be missed, definitely on that team, especially when you have 2 of the greatest ISO heavy players in the league in Chris Paul and the reigning MVP in James Harden. So just having those guys, James Harden and Chris Paul, on the team, it's going to bring a whole sense of different game plan to these coaches, to the game, the way it's going to be handled. But those players alone will win you maybe 40 to 50 games by themselves. Another guy on the Houston Rockets, that is very relieved, in my opinion, to see back is Clint Capella. He signed for 5 years, 90 mil, right? I believe that's correct. So 5 years on that deal, making just around 15 mil a year. It's going to be a good season for him, especially if the Houston Rockets didn't re-sign him and they just re-signed him to the qualifying offer. Capella obviously would be a little bit more uneasy playing for a team that didn't want to see him long term, didn't want to pay him out. But I'm glad that they were able to come to an agreement to see him long term. He's going to be in the building blocks for this team. He is built for this team. The classic rim runner, really well-rounded defensive player, can switch on to the point guards and not really look like in space out there. It's going to be nice. It's going to be nice to see. But one of the biggest things that we're kind of thinking about moving forward into this offseason is the whole conversation around Carmelo Anthony joining the Houston Rockets. Where does he fit? Is he going to do well? Are they going to bring him up? Going to bring him down? Let's talk about it, boys.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit that I overreacted as well when Ariza left. I thought that was a huge mistake, and but looking at it now, it does seem like a Daryl Morey move to say, you're 33 years old. We're not gonna pay you a ton of money. We're not gonna give you multiple years. We can find somebody else that can fit the role, and I think in James Ennis they found somebody that kind of fits the same mold. Good shooter who can defend multiple positions. But, obviously Ariza adds a lot of off-the-court value, his professionalism. Also close friends with Chris Paul, I believe. And with the Melo signing, personally, I don't understand it. I don't necessarily like it for their chances, specifically against the Warriors. And I think that's where a lot of people are going with it. If you talk about specifically the matchup with the Warriors, yes, I agree this hurts them because Melo just hasn't shown, I don't want to say ever, but the past 5, 6, 7 years that he just doesn't play defense. He just doesn't seem committed on that end. And when you're talking about, how they got the Warriors kind of sweating in the conference finals with the switching everything lineup, Melo just doesn't fit in there. But when you talk about the regular season, as Zach mentioned, the firepower that they already have, if you just add Melo there, I think they could get 60 wins again because it's just unstoppable offense. It's just too many weapons. But again, if you talk specifically against the Warriors, I don't like the move. They did get him on a minimum deal for 1 year, so it's not the end of the world. But personally, I'm not a fan of the move.
Yeah, and Melo, of course, is coming out saying that he's not gonna not start. He's a starting guy, and that changes the dynamic of the team a lot. You lose a lot of defense with Trevor Ariza gone, and especially if you replace him with Melo, it's tough. You have PJ Tucker, who is phenomenal. Is going to be a rock for them. You need Clint Capella to be a rock every night around the rim, and hopefully you can lead the plays to him if you just can get Melo to cover the perimeter. But offensively, obviously, Melo is a stud. He's going to fit into the offensive system amazingly, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Another thing I saw in Houston was some rumors that they were kicking the tires on J.R. Smith possibly as a trade, and that was coming from, I think, Zach Lowe.
Yes.
I think it was just kicking the tires. I wouldn't put too much behind it, but it's funny. I think
it is hilarious.
They're looking to add to this offense and keep going with what they're good at, and that's Mike D'Antoni, get it down there, put the shot up, live and die with it.
Yeah, they want to outgun the Warriors. If you get a guy like JR, we saw it last year. We don't have to say it. Everybody saw it. His performance in the playoffs, and it just you just want to outgun them at that point because this is all offense. A lineup with Melo and JR already together, that's just, defensively, you're going to suffer.
You're
going to suffer.
Shots.
I don't know. I think Zach Lowe mentioned Bazemore as well. Um, that they're talking Bazemore. I think they want to move the Ryan Anderson contract, so they can make a move there. But I don't see it. I think they got more distant from being able to beat the Warriors with the moves they made this offseason.
Yeah, Bazemore, I believe, would be a lot better of a 3 and D player than JR. Even before like the whole Melo trade or the Melo deal happened, I thought that there was a decent chance of getting Bazemore with the whole Ryan Anderson deal, and then they wouldn't have needed Carmelo. But if the Rockets are looking at this as a matchup against the Warriors, which it obviously kind of is, uh, they know that shots are gonna come pretty hard. They're gonna be very contested, and who better at contested shot threes? J.R. Smith. Sign him, and he will take all the contested threes, and he will make at least 8 out of 10. So
Yeah, for both teams.
oh yes,
Absolutely. No, it's. What do you see, Seb? I mean, I don't want to. I still have them at number 2 in the West. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, don't see it like in a series.
Yeah, I have Houston 2 at the West. It's just when it comes to playoffs, the defense is just magnified so much, and we've had teams that we thought could maybe prove that wrong, but every year, defense runs supreme, and it's just not there. When you have the Warriors, if the Warriors are healthy come next playoffs, it's a lock. Let's be real. Yeah, I love it for the entertainment, the game. I'll watch every part of it, but I don't know if Houston can put enough D together. Maybe we'll see a move made later in the season, or a waiver pickup later. But I think something has to be done to amp up their defensive end without sacrificing too much of their offense. It's a tough puzzle to put together, and the Warriors are just so dominant, and that's what they're trying to go against right now.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the few teams that actually had cap space this summer was the Chicago Bulls, who obviously, yep, and they didn't use all of it, but they used a lot of it, obviously mostly in 2 players, re-signing Zach LaVine and signing Jabari Parker. And I think that the moves are actually better than I think people reacted to in general, because a lot of people were putting out there, why are they using their cap space on these guys when next year, you have all these free agents. But, looking at their payroll, I think they still kept pretty good flexibility for the upcoming season. I mean, Rolo's an expiring contract. Bobby Portis will be restricted next year, same as Cameron Payne. So a few of the rotation pieces may actually not be there next year. And for them to take a flyer on Jabari, I have no problem with it. It's hard for Chicago to attract free agents usually, especially when they're in a situation like they're now, kind of in a rebuilding phase. So I think also because of the length of it, 2 years, I think is a good deal. You can argue that they overpaid him at $20 million a year, probably. But Jabari offensively is a great talent. Obviously, the 2 ACL tears in the same knee have put him back a lot. And when I watch Jabari, I just always feel like that he still got that bounce sometimes. You still see him get up there, get those dunks, get some putback dunks. But when you see him moving side to side, so lateral movement on defense, it really seems like he struggles with that. And he doesn't have the best defensive instincts. So, putting Jabari out there with Zach LaVine at the same time, who also is not the best defender, I think they're going to struggle to stop people. But, it's exciting when you think about Markkanen, you think about Bobby Portis come off the bench. It's a good outlook for the Bulls, and I think that they used their cap space pretty well this offseason.
Yeah, the Bulls are definitely an interesting team to watch out for. Like, they're a very young team with a lot of promise and a lot of potential there, especially because last year they drafted Lauri Markkanen, right? He is, in the mind of the fans, a very similar product to a Dirk Nowitzki or a Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, foreign, tall, big man who can shoot threes, who's very versatile on defense. He's going to be a good team to watch. With that over-under win projections from Vegas, they've got here that they're projected to win 27.5 games. I think that's a little too low for the Chicago Bulls, especially in the East right now. I think that they may be around 30 wins just with those three names alone. Uh, I'm excited to see Lauri Markkanen's breakout season alongside these two. Uh, Potential 20-point scoring uh, duo that you could say. I think Lauri's easily going to get double doubles in this NBA. So they're going to be a fun team to watch. They might be one of my league pass teams to look out for. So I don't know. What about you guys?
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're going to be a really fun team to watch. They're young. All these guys can get out on the break, push the ball. Lauri Markkanen will pull up from anywhere, and he can attack the rim. He's fast. He gets out on the wing. He'll be great to look for Jabari. Jabari's always looking to push the pace as well. So I expect them to be relentless in attacking the rim next year. Still be balanced in this NBA. Bobby Portis is expanding his range, and Jabari, Zach LaVine, hopefully, back from his injury, will have a little better shooting opportunity and show that he has a full, complete game. But this team's going to be really great. I think very aggressive in their offense, and they're going to be really great to learn as well. So I agree. I think it's a little low with those Vegas odds at 27. I think you said 27.5. So I think they can do well, probably somewhere, close to playoffs. But I don't know if they can do it this year.
Yeah, no, when they brought in Fred Hoiberg a few years back, he was known to be an offensive mastermind, and that was where he had his strength as a coach. And then, they were supposed to have this athletic team. Hoiberg was supposed to install this new era after Thibodeau where they're going to run, they're going to push the ball. And then management ended up signing Rondo and D Wade. And so you had a team of, older guys that couldn't really shoot the ball as well. And when you look at the core they have now, it's a young core, but it's a core that seems to fit what Hoiberg is thinking about. And they drafted Wendell Carter at number 7, which I forgot to mention earlier, who's also a guy who can stretch the floor just like Markkanen can. So, yeah, offensively, they should be great. I don't think they'll be that good defensively, and so I don't see them making the playoffs next year.
Mm-hmm. Who do they have at point right now?
Yeah, the points. Yeah, the point situation is interesting. I think a lot of people slept on Chris Dunn's season last year.
Yes.
I know. Yeah, when he came over in the trade, he was in the Jimmy Butler trade, and everybody focused on LaVine, obviously. But they had actually 2 years ago, Payne was actually starting a lot of games, and he wasn't doing that well. But last year when Dunn took over, he played pretty good basketball. He plays both ends of the floor. I think he still struggles a lot with decision making. He averaged 2.9, so pretty much 3 turnovers a game, which is a lot. But yeah, I think he plays both ends. He's athletic. He fits Hoiberg against system. And off the bench, you're gonna have Cameron Payne, who last year had an injury again. He seems to be always injured. And yeah, and had a decent last. I think he played 25 games only last year, and they were decent as a backup. But I think that's definitely something that they're going to look at next season. See, if they can probably scoop up point guard to complete the core.
Yeah, I think a vet point guard would be good there, but I can recall some Chris Dunn and good ball protector, and I think that's what they need. All these guys that we've named can handle the ball and like handling the ball. So I think necessarily having a typical point guard is not super important at this point. Jabari's going to be able to facilitate, play make. LaVine obviously spent quite a bit of time in Minnesota at points playing point guard, so he can do the same. Markkanen is great decision maker, and Bobby Portis. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits in, if he's able to get the same kind of opportunities some of these other guys, or if he's going to get stuck as a pick and roll man, because he has a pretty strong game as well. But the boards will be there for these guys, and it'll be the defensive end that determines where they place this season.
Even too, I'm looking at the fit with Wendell Carter as well, because the Chicago Bulls, they did have the opportunity to draft Michael Porter Jr. In the draft if they wanted to as well. So it's going to be a bit of a contrast between the two. Obviously, him being on Denver, and he's taking he had another back surgery, right? So if Wendell Carter is able to make some sort of an impact early in his career, maybe they made the better decision. But Until then, he's still a very raw prospect. He's got all the talent and the build for it right now, but it's what really translates into the game of the NBA now. But yeah, this team is very young, gritty, and they got a lot to prove. So we'll see what they're worth, really.
Yeah, I agree. Add it to my League Pass queue as well. I'm excited. This looks like a good team.
Yeah, high scoring games gonna be happening for sure. Yeah, just to finish out with the Bulls, I mean, it just looks like they got flexibility as well to make moves this year. You know, Rolo's expiring, 14 mil, which is steep, but I mean, there's probably a contender or a team fighting for playoffs that may look at that and maybe want to give up a pick. Um, Justin Holiday is expiring. Denzel Valentine has a team option. Same with Bobby Portis, who's gonna be restricted. So, you know, they could maybe flip a couple pieces, add something. But again, you know, I hope that, you know, as I mentioned before, the Rondo and Wade signings a few years back, I hope that they, you know, they slow down and that they realize that they have a good young core and hopefully they keep it, give it a chance to grow this year for next year. Yeah. Yeah, before we move on to more basketball talk, just want to give a big shout out to Mr. LeBron James. Um, and, you know, the opening of his his school, the I Promise School in Akron, Ohio. And of course, the LeBron James Foundation, I think, has stated that they will donate $2 million per year for the school. And you know, it goes without saying that this is, you know, exemplary. This is absolutely amazing. And it was really cool to see how other NBA players reacted on social media, tweeting how, you know, LeBron, you're paving the way. You know, this is the way to do it. And I think I forget the name. I believe it was one of the Grant brothers who immediately tweeted out, you know, I got to do something. So he started giving out backpacks to children after he saw the LeBron news. So, you know, big props to LeBron. What a great spokesperson to have, you know, for the NBA on and off the court, you know, as a, so to speak, best player in the world. And yeah, you know, what else? What else can you say?
So cool. So amazing. Great, great stuff that LeBron James is doing. It really transcends sports. And it, like you said, you know, one of the Grant brothers, you know, saw that and had to do something. It it affects so many people in so many different ways, and just keeps everyone thinking a little more clear on how they can give back and how they can contribute to each other. And it's, you know, so impactful for such a great player and such a great human to have in this game and in this world. So big props to LeBron James. Pretty amazing accomplishment.
I'm excited after reading what LeBron is doing with this I Promise School and his own personal stories with how he grew up in the school system and that around. One of the things that really interests me was the need that LeBron had for a sense of escape from the streets, sense of escape from his troubles and problems in life, and how much his bicycle impacted his life, and how he envisions every kid at this I Promise School to have a bike, to have those opportunities to learn and grow on their own, to have that escape, to get them away from rough situations, you know. So alongside the whole paying for tuition later on and the accelerated courses and all that, LeBron is very dedicated to the students, dedicated for these kids, and dedicated to the city of Ohio, or Akron, Ohio, and it's just amazing to see how much of an influence a guy in this position of sports, to see how much they can do when he doesn't just shut up and dribble. So,
Absolutely. Preach.
Speaking of which, though, LeBron came out, I think recently, like today. You know, the Showtime TV network. They're coming out with like a documentary series on the term "shut up and dribble." So, could be interesting to see what's happening there. Man, LeBron's starting a ton of Hollywood things now. Right now that he's over in LA, he's got the whole barbershop interview thing, a potential reality star in the making. We even got Space Jam 2. Space Jam 2.
sorry.
Apparently, Space Jam 2 is they're working on it. It's pretty close, I guess.
I got too excited, Zach. My bad.
It's all
Space
good,
Jam
man.
2.
Like,
here we go.
man, we grew up with that. One of the greatest underrated
Man.
soundtracks of all time on Space Jam. So
So there'll be another reason to compare Jordan and LeBron. Who did the better job acting
Yeah,
as Finch?
who did better? who carried the team more?
Yeah. Shout outs to LeBron James. Keep doing what you're doing. And moving on to other news as well. We had the NBA Africa game happening last weekend in South Africa. Probably the most iconic, the best, most famous player probably playing was Joel Embiid, who of course had a lot of memorable, Instagram, Twitter moments as he was there, and definitely entertaining. He also had, I think, a really, really nice behind the back move against JaVale, step back jumper. That was pretty sweet.
Man, JaVale hit a 3.
Yeah.
JaVale hit a 3, man. He's expanding his range. Who says they don't have shooters?
He wanted to show that off, I'm sure. He wanted to show it off, at least one that he could make
I saw the move though. JaVale had no clue where he was going.
Yeah, he was lost.
JaVale already in La La Land.
It's just gonna be insane, the memes on that Lakers team. The internet's gonna love it. But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the quick picture Embiid had where he was obviously helping out in South Africa. I think they were building some houses, and he had some bricks. He was moving around, and then he let everybody know that he's getting rid of the bricks now, so he doesn't have them
in the dying
when it's
seconds.
in the playoff season. I mean, that image is gonna be used a lot on NBA Twitter next year, though, if games go good or bad for Embiid.
It's Brick City.
Embiid obviously not shy to speak his mind, and he's been out there saying he's gonna be MVP candidate next season, and obviously they're very excited in Philadelphia.
Also, cool thing to note from the Africa game was that the MVP of the Africa game was Danilo Gallinari.
Hey,
So,
he didn't get injured?
Pardon?
He didn't get injured during the game?
Didn't get injured this game, but he's always got that promise. He's always good for 20 points any game. So this could be his bounce back season with the Clippers, because it was supposed to be the big season with him and Blake, with that core there too. But now that they don't really have a clear number one option on the Clippers, who's going to step up? Could be interesting.
Yeah, they're sneaky, very deep team, right? What do you guys think? I think they're pretty much covered in every position. I mean, looks pretty solid.
I love the Clippers right now. I thought last year they had a pretty decent team, but a lot of injuries held them back. But this year, they got rid of DJ, and they did. Sorry, my apologies. Did they re-sign Tobias Harris? Did that happen?
No, he turned down his offer.
No, he turned down an extension, but he is under contract
for
with
one more year
with the Clippers. Yeah, he
turned
down an extension, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I think Tobias Harris is a great piece they have. 3-and-D, still very young. Montrezl Harrell re-signing was big. He's super efficient, always high energy when he was on the court. Last year, he off the bench was phenomenal. And then a healthy Danilo Gallinari is massive. This guy, I think, has superstar potential, has shown that he's a superstar, but has been held back in a couple different ways.
Yeah, like you mentioned previously, Seth, that the Clippers, are they still over max caps or max space for roster spots?
Yes, so they just yesterday there was news Sam Dekker being traded to Cleveland for I think just cash considerations, I from my understanding, and that leaves them still one roster man over the spot. So
yeah, it's whoever gets the
they're
can
gonna
now.
have to do something.
Yeah, well, the G League is thriving. It's big and well. But yeah,
Your man though, there's Zach Boban. He might have to be the one that's cut, but if they keep him, how do you think he plays with DJ out of there?
Oh, see, okay. So right now with the Montrezl Harrell re-signing, they spent a lot of minutes with Harrell playing the 5 in small ball lineups, and obviously that's kind of the direction that the NBA is going. with these small ball lineups. But really, when it comes down to it, a team with a really dominating center has a big impact on the game. And who is the greatest NBA center who has the highest player efficiency rating in the NBA last year? Boban was close. So Boban is very, very good in my opinion. And you know what? Maybe this is the year he gets freed. Doc Rivers, he knows that he can play. He's seen him in practice. He's seen his effort. So Boban, he's a movie star and he's on his way to NBA superstardom. So it's gonna be fun to watch the Clippers this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I agree. This is an intriguing team for sure. I don't know if you guys saw Matt Barnes had an interview recently in which he talked about that after he went to the Warriors, he really realized how they couldn't really drop the egos, during the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin era, how they really weren't able to for some reason. He pretty much quoting him here. He said that off the court they're all great, but for some reason on the court tensions and bad habits, and it just didn't work. And now every piece is gone of that era. DJ was the last piece to go, so I'm sure that internally this could feel like a fresh start. And they traded for Alexander, who apparently a lot of teams wanted to move up for, and I'm gonna be really interested to see what they do with Alexander. I hope personally that he may even start. That would be great. They're just covered in every position, and will they make the playoffs? What do you guys think? I mean, right now it's early. Obviously, we're making early predictions here, but I just wonder about front court depth a little bit in the sense of Gortat and Boban. Do you play Harrell at the 5 maybe for stretches? That could work. But looking at their backcourt, it's just stacked. I mean, you have Avery Bradley sitting there, of course, 6-man Lou Will, and then you have dogs like Beverly coming off the bench, just gonna defend. I mean, on paper it looks great.
And Marcin Gortat getting traded there too. Because
I think it comes down to the health of their team. If they can stay healthy for the full season and all these guys can contribute, I can see them coming in at 7th or 8th in the West. It's tight, but they're definitely a playoff caliber team. They have all the right guys to do it, and they should be right there. Lou Will, all-star snub last year. Had a phenomenal year. I think he's going to come out probably less ball handling for him, but still going to be able to contribute massively. And you have some defensive players that will compete. So I think they can hold their own, and so long as everyone's healthy, I can expect 7th or 8th in the standings for them.
Yeah, did Teodosic go back to the EuroLeague?
No, Teodosic is still under contract.
Okay.
They decided to take his option.
Okay.
Sorry. He had a player option that he took actually.
Okay.
And it was partially guaranteed only to a certain date, and I think there were a lot of talk about them probably cutting him, but he's still on the contract.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the roster right now. You got Beverly, Avery Bradley, Gallinari, the potential in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Gortat, Harold, Harris, Wesley Johnson, Lukumba Mute, Mike Scott even too, and Lou Will. This team has some depth. They're all a bunch of role players in my opinion, but when you have guys who are role players with a common goal, you can get a lot of games won like that. When they're not playing for themselves, they're playing for each other. I believe that this is a team that can look very similar to the 2014 Atlanta Hawks, in my opinion. So this can be a very unselfish team with a lot of upside, a lot of promise.
Also, big chance for Doc Rivers.
Yeah, because
Let's see it. Yeah, he's. A lot of people consider him a top 5 coach. Let's see it. What can you do with a team like this? Not really have a quote unquote superstar in there. So we'll see. Sept, what you mentioned about Lou being a snub. The last bench player to make an All-Star game. was Kobe in '98, who only started one game, but was voted as a starter in the All-Star game. And if you go further back, this Ricky Pierce, 1990 to 91, only started 2 games and made it as an All-Star.
Lou started a lot more last year though.
Mm-hmm.
This year I don't think he's gonna have the same opportunity. Last year was a shot for it, but 6-man, huge award. He deserves it all, and he's gonna keep competing for that. I think they've got a lot of unselfish players. Clippers are looking really good this year, in my opinion. But it is a tough conference.
Absolutely.
And we're gonna move on to the last segment of the day. It's a fun little thing we're trying out. May or may not be back this episode, next episode, we'll see. But it's called Brick or Bucket. Dunno. Brick or Bucket is the show. Everything basketball related is covered, and I give you guys topics. You tell me brick or bucket. Is it a good shot? Is it a bad shot? And this spans all over the place, so it's a speed round. You guys just shout it out as soon as it comes to your mind, and I'll move on to the next topic. Okay, Joakim Noah workout video was recently surfaced. He hit 3 threes in a row. Oh my goodness, everyone freaks out. It's amazing. Brick or bucket?
Buckets
all day.
Okay, rap sign Greg Monroe.
I'm gonna say brick. Yeah, brick, because right now we have a really offensively talented center in JV right now who borderline.
We'll do a Raps rundown later. This is a quick segment.
Okay. Yeah,
Everyone's
brick.
talking Kiki. How about that In My Feelings music video? Drake wearing a DeMarcus Cousins jersey.
Oh, that's buckets, man.
Buckets.
That's buckets.
That's
That is
crazy.
such a throwback.
Okay, Lakers death lineup: Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Kuzma, and LeBron at the 5.
Buckets.
What? Brick City, boy.
Whoa.
Meta World Peace changes his name back to Ron Artest.
Back to Ron Artest? Yo, greater days were back with Ron Artest, so buckets.
Brick. You're just gonna you're gonna change it and change it back. Brick.
Yo, Panda Friend
Okay.
was the best.
This just in: the game is fighting his own teammate at the Drew League. You guys didn't see
Brick.
the video?
No.
Brick.
Brick. Okay, the game. Yeah, throwing punches in the Drew League. What can you expect? Everyone loves it. It's a
Man.
bucket for me. It's a bucket for me.
Oh, man, I can only imagine buckets.
Okay, and the last one I have here, a little different perspective. It's tough to recall this one, but reported Raptors rejected trade with Thunder in 2012. JV, Jose Calderon, and T. Ross for James Harden.
It's a brick.
Oh, that's
It's a massive brick.
Yeah, because it involves Jose.
Even at the time, it involves Jose. We'll call it there. That's it for today's show. Thank you very much. I'm Sebastian. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, it's
Take it easy, everyone. Stay safe. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys. Zach signing off. We are the Up and Under. Have a good night, boys.
Under, off the board.